because now Poland is getting more and more attractive, I guess, for
It is
tourists
not
and to
in
immigrants.
Romania. Like it's happening in Romania as well. Like I've seen, students from the Middle East coming. Obviously, the students coming from Africa as well. Like it's becoming a viable option. And
Yeah.
obviously, there's actually pretty good education for like something like medicine. It's actually pretty good. We might not have some of the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
technology, but the like famously dentistry back home in like Hungary, Romania, like Poland is actually better than in the UK.
No. Oh.
So yeah, it's definitely becoming a viable option and it's becoming an international market. And it's kind of cool to see
Mm.
that, the world's
Yeah.
becoming more
Yeah.
mixed.
Yeah. It's great because so far you probably had the similar experience. So far you only heard about people going out, like going to other countries, going to UK, going to Germany or
Yeah,
Norway. That's is
but
also
but then you got the fascinating experience of these very homogenized and somewhat rigid. Well, they're not rigid. They're just used to being, Poland's Polish, Romania's, well, not only Romanian. You still have, different ethnicities, but they're used to
sure.
what they have regionally. And then you've got international students coming in, and people kind of go, oh, is that like, where you from? Who are you? What do you want? There is a bit
Yeah.
of that, and we have
Yeah,
seen it.
there is. Well, that's the whole thing. I know some usually sometimes when I talk to people in the US, especially at colleges in the US. Right now I'm in the US in Buffalo or in Cheektowaga, which is a town near Buffalo.
Right.
So you there's a Native American name. There's a lot of Native American names in the US. Not a lot of Native Americans, but well,
Yeah.
what can you say?
Well, that's you got a couple of centuries of history there. But
That's true. So you uh, in colleges in the US, people are very woke. That's the thing, very left wing. Everyone is like that, and they when they hear about Poland, that it's just very homogenous. Nothing. You only have
yeah,
Polish people. Everyone is white. They're or Caucasian. That would be the better way to put it.
I mean,
And
yeah,
they are
there's
very
once you get into this, like, there's so many reasons for it. Like, I can speak for Romania, but this was a country that people could not leave or really visit for like the past,
sure.
well, not for the past 50 years because we broke out of it 30 years ago, but the 50 years before it, like, it was locked down, more or less.
Yeah,
So obviously that's gonna happen.
sure. And they talk about racism
I
in
mean, we
Poland.
can talk about it. It exists.
Yeah, it
It's just
exists,
it's
of
a, it's a
course.
very it's somewhat different. Eastern European racism is
Yeah,
somewhat different to Western European racism. It's still racism, but it has different underpinnings, and it is kind of oddly fascinating to see.
yeah, yeah. Because as you said, that just people, at least in Poland, they're not used to anyone from outside. They're just like, who
No,
are you? What's that? Just,
yeah,
and
yeah,
and and in the let's say in the US and the UK, what they're trying to build is like a multicultural society, which is I think very hard. They're doing it. They're doing all right, but it's you're
it's a
mixing a
work in
lot of
progress.
different cultures. You're mixing a lot of different nationalities, and everyone is has their own beliefs, and everyone has their own.
And you got the
Yeah,
identity element of it. Is like people,
yeah,
people involve like invest a part of themselves into their identity, and that becomes it's an emotional thing that
yeah,
it becomes uncomfortable to it feels like you're giving up something even though you're gaining something. Like I've been quite fortunate. I grew up in a household that wasn't big on national identity. They were Jehovah's Witnesses, that's why. So they were, I was
oh,
I was
okay,
a human first before I was anything else. And I've kind of embraced that. And I'm not a Jehovah's Witness anymore, but I embrace that element of like, you know, my if I want to be, belong anywhere, I belong to the human family first and foremost, and anything else, that's just luck. That's just the lottery of where you're born and who your parents are. But
exactly.
so I've been fortunate that way. But yeah, there's definitely an element of people kind of once you grew up in an environment and part of a group, and that becomes it gives meaning to your life in a way.
Hmm.
Your traditions and things like this, it can feel like you're giving up something. It becomes uncomfortable. You don't want to give that up, and
Yeah,
that's where unless you realize that there's a bigger world out there and you got something else to belong to and you can make that transition, but that's where the ugliness can come out quite often,
hmm,
unfortunately.
yeah. It's, So what we're talking about?
Well, you're talking about colleges in the U.S. That's what we're talking
Oh
about.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a lot of that,
How
a
you
lot of like,
being
being
from
woke.
Eastern Europe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's so sometimes you know it didn't happen to me. It happened to my colleague, but you know it just there's so many differences. Like in Poland, we're taught uh, that you should open the door for a lady. You know, just like hold the
Yeah, that's
door,
that's the
or that's
classic.
something. You know, it's I when I was in high school or whatever, for most of my life probably I was not even thinking about it as being like demeaning or whatever. Just like, but you know, it can be. Some people can be offended by that, and that happened to my colleague that you know he
Yeah.
was holding a door in the college, probably in somewhere in California, for a lady, and she was like, "I don't need your Eastern European manners." So,
Wow. Okay. Well, see, this is interesting for because like if she's trying to be open-minded and respectful to all sorts of cultures, which they say we're trying to respect, then you're gonna not respect that part of the Eastern European culture or just that part of the Polish culture. Now you can't. The thing with cultures, not everything's good about them. There's I come from Romania. I know we have serious problems in certain aspects, but at the same time, it's kind of interesting that she phrased it that way. I was like, I don't need your Eastern European culture. But you're like, hang on, but you're trying to be open-minded and respectful, and you know, that's an interesting
yeah,
thing to see. I think.
yeah. Well, that's just going the extreme. You know, just like any extreme, even if you're like you know very left wing, trying to be open minded, and you go to the extreme,
There's
that's
I
not
mean, yeah, I
not
don't think we're.
good.
I don't think it's controversial
So
to say that
so
any
what?
movement will have extremes, and any movement, like not everything that's done in the name
Yeah,
of progress and good is,
sure. Yeah,
like you can go about it in the wrong way, and I think that's
yeah. When I was talking about it to a mathematician, he said, you know, you go to right and you go to left, but if you go to the extreme, it's a circle. You know,
yes, yes, it is.
at the extreme they're the same. But I mean, and I think some
In
people
behavior.
in the West they don't kind of uh, have that in mind because they don't know much about communism.
Yes,
Like in the Eastern Europe, we had it right, Poland, Romania,
Hungary, Slovakia,
whatever. Yeah, so there's
Bulgaria,
the whole region where
Eastern
the
Bloc. Yes,
Eastern
we've
Bloc,
tried
where
it, and the funny
yeah,
thing is, we all had different versions of it as well. It wasn't the
yeah,
same communism, even though we all reported
yeah.
back to the same center, as it were. But we all had our own, flavor of it. We had Ceausescu. Who's it? Fuck, I remember as a Tito the guy was or something like that. I don't want to get his
Mm-hmm.
name wrong, but yeah, Bulgaria had another version of it, and then Hungary was famously a bit more liberal, not liberal, a bit more open, like economically even. Like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people from Romania tried to sneak into Hungary because life was better there even during communism. That it
Yeah, yeah.
seemed that way. So yeah, it's not like, oh, you tried one, because that's the one argument I hear sometimes. Like, yeah, but the communism you tried wasn't the real communism. You know, I hear
Let's
that
give it one
sometimes,
more time. Yeah,
and
one
I'm
more
like,
try,
yeah,
right?
but it wasn't just us. It was literally an
Yeah.
entire region with different versions of it, and
And
you
then
have
you
two
also can look
versions.
at South America.
Yeah,
They
they
also
tried their
tried
own
it,
version
and
of it
a
as well.
different version didn't work out.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of life by committee. I'm not sure that like, and the thing is, capitalism does have problems. I'm not gonna be like, it's not far from perfect, and it has its extremes, absolutely. But when people, sort of blindly embrace communism or just start touting like this is who we are and yes, and I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
actually, no. This is a fun, this kind of a strange experience I had in Barcelona,
yeah,
or Barcelona as the natives call it.
Barcelona,
Yeah,
see,
yeah, yeah. And then I saw on at the University of Barcelona, I saw a lot of those communist symbols
mm.
because you know, so Catalonia, they want to be just a separate country. They want to get out of Spain. They have their own.
That's again a sense of identity, a sense of self
Yeah, that's exactly that's what you said.
determination.
So and and they want to do it by revolution. course. Like, of course, I'm talking about young people at the university, right? The and there's a lot of like meetings like that, and they would wave flags, and that will be communist symbols, like
Yeah, I'm.
that.
Hmm.
Which for me it was really strange to see
Yeah,
that.
because if you go to the right Eastern European country, communist symbols can be symbols of death. If you ask,
Most, but from what I heard, so it's in Poland. It was tough in Poland, but I know that in Romania, there was like
Romania
at
was a
the
very
end,
specific animal, yeah, because
at the end, the thing that happened. I only learned it. Oh, by the way, so because I'm not. I was also ignorant about history of Romania,
mm,
but so I was told some things about communism in Romania by a guy who I'm visiting here in the US. So there's a lot of Romanian mathematicians
oh yeah, we go
came
all
to the
over the place,
US.
man.
Yeah,
We go all
yeah.
over the
So
place.
yeah. So my collaborator here is Romanian. Fun fact.
Cool. Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, to give people a sort of a very short and succinct understanding of how much people, how they felt about communism in Romania, the guy, Ceausescu, was shot, publicly executed. So make up your own mind about that.
Yeah, so that was. I didn't want to say it,
That's
but
no,
that was
Ceausescu was
the part.
executed, publicly executed
Yeah,
in December 89.
yeah, yeah.
Draw your own
That's
conclusions.
and there is. I know if there is a video of it on YouTube. It might
I'm
be.
pretty
There
sure
might
there's a
be.
video of it,
There might be a video. So
yeah.
check it out.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe don't do that unless you're actually like historically curious. That you can see it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But yes, ukulele. We're trying to get back to the ukulele. So
Yeah.